Onside. It's Thursday. We don't normally shoot on Thursday, but there's a reason for it. There was some big results over the last couple of days. There's a massive result on Tuesday. And I wish we had the ability always to have sort of memes or like sort of some images on the screen. Because the image I would have shown is, remember that geezer? Must have been about 2 weeks ago. It's a bit of a meme now where he,
But
little Arsenal bottle, obviously implying that Arsenal had bottled it. Fast forward 2 weeks, I think it's the reverse. I think Man City are bottling it, but a fantastic couple of weeks for the Arsenal, and it will be remiss of me to not indulge you after the last few years that you've had. So fantastic, fantastic! Congratulations to the Arsenal and to all Arsenal fans. You must be cock a hoop. But before you tell me how exactly you are feeling, how are things at your end in Abu Dhabi?
yeah, it's all good right now. Things are not as clear as are they in terms of things happening in the skies and what have you. But look, listen, just praying for a little bit of peace and quiet, and hopefully everything will be okay. But yeah, it's been a long week. Thursday night, a lot of short nights with the football in the midweek as well. You know how it is. But doing very well, but very much looking forward to the weekend right now. How are things in Blackburn? Is that a nice bit of daylight I see seeping through your window?
Yeah, it's daylight. I mean, it's a little bit sort of grey. I mean, it's not too cold. We had a nice little spell last week. Last week was really gorgeous. This week's been a typical British weather, typical northern weather, but I don't complain. As long as it's dry, I'm not too fussed. The only sunshine will be Leeds staying up. If Leeds stay up, then I don't care how much it rains. It will be a glorious summer for me. So, talking about glorious summers, it potentially could be a glorious summer for you and the Gooners. I mean, unbelievable last couple of weeks because I've got to be honest. I mean that meme is it's doing the rounds, or for the other reasons now. I mean, obviously it was doing the rounds because there was that implication that Arsenal had bottled it. But credit to Arteta, credit to the team. They've turned it round, and really, you're hot favourites now, certainly for the league, and some would say for the Champions League as well. So it could really be a fantastic summer. And I'll have to take away everything that I said about Arteta, as many comments I've made, outlandish comments. But you must be over the moon with not just the game a couple of days ago, but obviously what's happened over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it's the business end of the season. So when you're watching these games, and yeah, listen, I get it. To some extent, it's the same for you for Leeds, although you don't watch as many games as perhaps you should. The tension is palpable. The stakes are incredibly high. I think for Arsenal, especially you, just because of recent history, it feels even more profound in terms of the edge, the impact, the consequence, the heaviness in which the players and the manager, in a sense, are carrying right now. The burden of 22 years without, obviously, a Champions League final appearance. 22 years, sorry, I should say, without a Premier League trophy. It's been 20 odd years since they've got to the Champions League final. That famous night against Barcelona in Paris, when they obviously lost at the bitter end. But it has been, to your point, Ayub, a really good 7 or 10 days, Ayub, since that defeat at the Etihad, where they acquitted themselves well.
Mm.
Yes, City had the momentum at that stage. There's no doubt you don't want to lose those games, Ayub. I remember telling you that I think if they avoided defeat in that game, I think they'd be pretty strong favourites. And it wasn't the case. Yet they've still found a way to bounce back. And in some ways, I guess that builds even more. I'm sure you agree, you, but a little bit more kind of resilience, a little bit more character that they've had to bounce back from what was a very difficult defeat. If it is to be the case, Ayub, that Arsenal win this Premier League title, the Champions League, I guess, will come on shortly. That scene or that famous clip, I guess, now of Declan Rice telling Martin Odegaard that it's not done yet, in some ways will be that kind of profound, kind of substantive image of the season, let's say, of Arsenal ultimately saying, not this season, not right now. It's not going to be the same old Arsenal as we've seen in previous years. And that's what Arsenal are playing against the Youth right now. It's more the scrutiny, the embarrassment, the naysayers who say that when it gets to this time of season, Arsenal are not able to walk the walk, as they say. Now, look, it's been a wonderful 10 days, and I got to give massive credit to the club, to the manager, to the players. It's not easy bouncing back with ultimately three season defining clean sheets. I would argue big clean sheet against Newcastle when they were absolutely on the ropes, not playing well. Let's be very clear. They've obviously got a huge clean sheet at Fulham and obviously played probably one of their best games of the season. And then they knew on Tuesday night, Ayub, that if they keep a clean sheet, they will go a long, long way to punching their ticket to the
Mm.
Champions League final. And that's exactly what they did. I thought they deserved it, Ayub, over the two legs just coming to the game itself. I think over the two legs in the Champions League, Ayub, I do think they just edged it. I thought they were the better team for the most part. I thought Atletico had their moments, don't get me wrong. And I think on another day, the situation with the Saliba header, the Gabriel kind of tackle slash grab or what have you, it can go another way. I mean, the player goes down, suddenly it's a penalty, you're down to 10 men, it all goes also very differently. But you probably need a little bit of luck as well, I think, along the way as well. I think Arsenal did have that. So listen, just on the Champions League itself, for you, my friend was there at the game. Incredible night. I think that's been the most probably impactful thing. You saw the images before the game. You felt very much a raucous atmosphere outside the stadium. The fans really bought into making this a difficult experience for Atletico Madrid. Incredible support for the players, incredible support for the team in what was going to be a very nervous game. And so it proved. Yet Arsenal, I thought, for the most part, control their emotions just about well. Big decisive impacts from Declan Rice early on with that big blocker, Job. I thought Miles Lewis-Skelly had a very kind of steady game, perhaps not to the same excellent levels as against Fulham, but this is the Champions League semi-final. I don't expect him to run rings around a semi-final opponent in the Champions League. And then I've been asking for it, Ayub, on a few occasions. I've mentioned it on this podcast. He's now paid like a superstar, is Bukayo Saka. And when you're paid superstar bucks and you're one of the best paid players in the country, you have to have game match winning contributions, such as the pay packet. That's the burden you carry now. You've got to make game winning contributions. That's why they pay you. So he's come on leaps and bounds. Big impact home to Fulham, 45 minutes. A huge, huge impact. And just on the goal itself, I don't know if you scrutinized it in detail, but his opportunistic run to get in amongst the centre backs first and foremost, and then just it's so sharp. The moment Trossard hits that ball, he so quickly just chops inside of the defender, just sniffing something out like a proven goal scorer. So it shows that he's fit, he's fresh, he's clear-minded, he's willing to get in amongst it to try and make these game-winning contributions, which is perhaps the big question mark. Can he get those goals where sniffing in around the box? Wonderful contribution. And you saw the outpouring of emotion at the end of the game, Ayub. There have been some who've spoken a little bit about perhaps the over-the-top celebrations, but I think most people have been fair. If you reach the final game of the premier
Mm.
competition in Europe and arguably in club football around the world, I think you do deserve to let your hair down a little bit and ultimately, give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back. You saw what it meant to PSG yesterday. They were celebrating just as hard, actually, in the dressing room and what have you.
Mm.
But yeah, an incredible night for Arsenal. Yes, they had, I would argue, a fortuitous path to some extent, playing Leverkusen, Sporting, and then Atletico Madrid on their way to the final, Europe. But they did that because they came top of their group stage, and they put a lot of emphasis on that. They've conceded, what is it, Ayub, 6 goals in the Champions League, not lost a game. These are incredible heights that they are hitting in that competition where you're supposed to play the creme de la creme. They've beaten Bayern Munich this season. They've beaten Inter Milan. They've obviously now beaten Atletico Madrid. And they've now, and I'm sure you'll comment on it, probably got to scale the biggest mountain of all right now in Paris Saint-Germain, who are an incredibly confident team. But from an Arsenal perspective, just on the Champions League, and I will touch on the Premier League shortly, I think it was just an incredible night for Arsenal Football Club. Really happy for the manager. You know how I feel about him. I think he really
Mm.
deserves this. First, you think about when he returned Arsenal back to the big time Champions League football, quarterfinal stage next season, semi-final stage next season. He's now arrived into the final. That is tangible, clear progress that he's making with this football club. Some will argue he spent money, but I can point to a number of clubs who've spent money and failed miserably. So, listen, it's a wonderful moment for Arsenal Football Club. I think they've got the right kind of mentality right now. I would say some of the noises I'm hearing in terms of 3 games to go in the league, 1 game to go in the Champions League. I don't think they're getting carried away with it. You saw a number of players speak about Sunday night straight away in terms of that game at West Ham. They are agonizingly closer, you to achieving their dreams of obviously winning this Premier League title. And ultimately, it's up to them to deliver it, and it's in their hands completely and exclusively. So, just on the Champions League itself, incredible night, a very special night for Arsenal Football Club, and they have ultimately one huge game to go to write themselves into history.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Uh, and you're right about the celebrations as well. I think if you're not going to celebrate that, or if you're going to criticize that sort of celebration, then really you've no idea of what top class sport is all about. I mean, those are the moments that you work so hard for. Albeit that's a game to get to the final, but that in itself is something which is deserving of celebrating. So I had no issue with that, and in fact, it's something that I would highly encourage other teams to do. If you get to a final of a major sporting event, then really enjoy that moment. Enjoy that moment. And obviously, this is a team that I think what's impressed me most is that going back to that scene with that sort of that geezer drinking that little bottle of Arsenal water. It's the mentality. And you're right. You touched upon that game against Man City, albeit it's a game that they lost. But I think that the way they applied themselves, it must have given them a great deal of confidence because on any other day, they maybe probably would have won the game. So it's not as if they were outplayed. It was a performance that should have given them confidence. But thereafter, I mean, it's been imperious. I mean, I think the result against Fulham as well. I mean, that was it. If it was 6-0, it wouldn't have been flattering for the Arsenal because I think they were sort of by miles the superior side. So I think congratulations, absolutely outstanding. I mean, there's one result that I just hope they don't let me down. I mean, it's next week or the weekend when they play West Ham. The potential banana skin. I think in terms of the games that they've got coming up in the league, the only one where there's a likelihood that it could be a mishap is that game against West Ham. I am just hoping. I mean, as long as you guys don't get beat, I will be. I mean, as I said, if you beat West Ham, I will be supporting West Ham for the. I'll be supporting Arsenal for the league and for the Champions League because it will allow me to enjoy Monday. But outstanding, outstanding. It needs the icing on the cake. That is the key because
Yeah.
I think if the league is done and dusted, I just can't see the way that they're playing. I think the way that they're applying themselves, I just can't see Arsenal sort of throwing this away. The Champions League again. I mean, in terms of the two teams, let me just ask you the question:
Yeah.
what was or which team was your preference, PSG or Bayern? Which team do you think Arsenal are more equipped to deal with and to beat?
It's a very interesting question, Ayub. And I think in normal circumstances, you would have a strong preference either way. But I actually think both teams are pretty elite in terms of them being able to cause Arsenal some challenges. But honestly, if I'm being very open and forthright, I'm glad in a sense that Arsenal have the opportunity to win the Premier League title whilst Pep Guardiola is still in the league. For me, it means much more when you go up against a worthy adversary. And similar after having lost to PSG in the semi-finals, there is a kind of I won't call it sadistic, but in terms of this kind of desire to let's go meet them again and see if we can overcome that mountain. I think PSG represent you for me the highest level of football right now, especially in club football. I think Bayern Munich got there; they would have been worthy winners. Let's not get it wrong. But I think there's just something about slaying the dragon in a final, and they are an incredibly well-oiled machine. I would argue they're probably boasting the best player in the world right now in Kvaratskhelia. Like he was incredible yesterday. I thought some of his speed of thought, his feet, his running, incredible, incredible football. I think they're just a really well-oiled machine. So I was actually hoping, in a sense, that they would get through because I thought Arsenal acquitted themselves well last year, but that was a PSG team that was still on its way to defining glory. This is now an uber confident team. They are playing in such a there's an arrogance about with which they run, the movement, the passing. I mean, that 1-2 for the first goal, Ayub, is just incredible, incredible football. Just beautiful stuff. So there was a part of me that felt it's easy to always want, in a sense, the easier team. And there is no easy team. It's PSG and Bayern Munich. I mean, let's get it very clear. But there was a part of
Mm,
me that felt PSG are the best team in Europe, and it would be nice to play them in the final to, in a sense, get that ultimate validation that
mm,
yes, they've played Sporting, Leverkusen, Atletico fine. And listen, it's a Champions League final. You're going to play one of the best teams, absolutely no doubt. But there's a part of me that's very glad that it is PSG. I thought we acquitted ourselves relatively well last season in difficult circumstances. I think that this team's better. I would argue there's one aspect of the PSG game which they do incredibly well, which is attack with force and running and speed of thought and all the rest. I mean, they've got some incredible footballers. Every single player is a 9 out of 10 plus. But then there's one side of the game that Arsenal do very well, Ayub, and that's where, in a sense, this game is a stylistic clash. You know, it's
mm,
attack against defense. It's kind of the flair and intricacy and the speed of mind of PSG against a resolute, well drilled, well organized Arsenal. And in a sense, it should make for a decent football game because I think a clash of styles is always good fun in some ways. At least it's intriguing. It's it'll be
mm.
very good to watch. So I would say I'm glad it's PSG because I think Arsenal have an opportunity to take out what I believe to be the very best team in the Champions League. It is the ultimate validation to beat the very best. I think they've got a chance to do that under Pep Guardiola at the helm at Man City. They've got the chance, obviously, now to do that in Budapest in a few weeks. Time. We'll come on just very quickly to that game. There were a couple of incidents I just want to get your thoughts on as well. But just picking back to what you said about obviously the West Ham game and what have you. Are you of the opinion that ultimately this Sunday game is, in a sense, the be all and end all for Arsenal? They've obviously got Burnley at home. There afterwards, the result against Everton for Man City, albeit they dragged themselves out of a right hole at the end
Mm.
and got themselves a pivotal draw, which I think is so crucial when you actually think about it. It's literally the difference between Arsenal being able to actually lose a game. I mean, that is
Yeah.
quite important to
Mm.
think about when you've only got 3 games left. So it absolutely could be crucial, Ayub, when funny things can happen. But do you believe it's West Ham away win that and you essentially win the league?
Yeah. It's as simple as that because I think that is the trickiest of the fixtures. A, it's a London derby, and B, it's there's so much at stake for West Ham. And they're capable. There's no reason why they're not capable. But I would be very, very surprised if Arsenal didn't get a result. Especially because they know that they really want it to be done and dusted. I think if they don't get the result, if they don't get 3 points, it just then means that they've got 2 more games where perhaps they would have their eye on the Champions League Cup final. If they win against West Ham, they could almost play a reserve team against uh, uh, Burnley, and then the last game, I suppose, depending on where Everton are, so it gives them that scope. If they don't get the result, it's going to be a difficult sort of situation. So I would hope that they go into that game uh, and give it everything that they've got. I mean, I don't expect them to do anything less because there is obviously still lots at stake. Now, thankfully, there is a lot at stake because the worst thing for me as a Leeds fan would have been if it was done and dusted. That would have been catastrophic because I just would have thought that if it's done and dusted, maybe they would have taken their eye off the ball in the league. But the fact that it's a game which obviously means so much, from a personal point of view, I just hope they do us a favour because I want to enjoy that game on Monday against Spurs. And the only way I'm going to enjoy it is, I mean, a draw will be, for all intents and purposes, good enough because there's a huge sort of goal difference. But I mean, if it is a draw, that will shake you up because that gets City back into the mix. And you're right
Absolutely.
about that game. It could be. I mean, it felt like it as well when Doku scored in the 98th minute. I don't know. It sort of felt sort of quite seismic. In a
Mm.
sense, it almost sort of felt like maybe there's something that sort of City can sort of almost be inspired by because they were, I mean, done and dusted. I mean, just talking about, in fact,
Yeah,
I mean, I'd like to have your thoughts because I presume you watched the City Everton game. Uh,
highlights.
yeah, it was. I mean, I watched the game and I was, I mean, that first half, and again, this is where maybe I think City bottled it because a more clinical City would have been 3-4 up done and dusted the game, but they didn't. It was there was rash moments or hurried moments. There was plenty of opportunities, maybe sometimes half opportunities, but these are the opportunities that you want to capitalize on. City didn't, and in the end, when you're playing a Premier League side, there's always that danger. And it at 3-1, they looked dead and buried. So there is something.
Yeah,
It's almost like on the one hand, you can say they bottled it, but on the other hand, you can almost not say they've retrieved the situation by
yeah.
showing a great deal of character. So, what was your thoughts? I mean, you've obviously watched the highlights. Does it sort of keep them right in the mix, or are you sort of quite confident that the Arsenal will win the next three games?
Listen, I just think it is a huge goal, and that's not just because as an Arsenal fan you're expecting the worst. It's not that. I recognise the strengths of what Arsenal are right now, especially just in recent games where they feel like they've turned a little bit of a corner where they found some rhythm. But equally, the difference ultimately by that last goal, Ayub, is a situation where Arsenal are winning by a goal, and it's the 88th minute, and the opposition gets a corner and what have you, and nerves are frayed and there's a lot of tension and it's palpable. I mean, you think about Sergio Aguero in terms of that game defining moment. I
Mm,
often think, I'm like, what if he shanks that ball to the right hand side? What if he hits Paddy Kenny's shins? I mean, there's so many
mm,
different things that could happen that could have shaped history. That was Man City going for their first ever title, obviously under
mm,
Mancini. Can you imagine if they lose that? Do they recover? Do they even win as many titles as they have done in recent years if they don't get over the line in that first one? So there is going to be some moments in the next three games that you where Arsenal will be under pressure, and if Doku hasn't scored that goal, Arsenal to some extent can lose a narrow game, or
mm,
equally they can be, let's say, a goal down going into the last 10, 12 minutes, knowing a draw still puts us in the box seat in the Premier League. And that's the difference of you, where in a sense you can afford a draw. So if you're leading and yeah, the other team scores one, fine, a draw's gonna still keep it in the
mm,
box seat. Now, if they draw a game, obviously it brings goal difference back into the equation. City scored three goals again. So it's not as though scoring's an issue for them, and they've got three
mm,
home games against Brentford, Villa, and Palace, which could all be. I mean, Brentford, give them respect; they've done well for the most part, especially at home. But those other games will not hold any fear for Man City in terms of being able to score. Villa, I mean, Simon Jordan spoke about it as though it was the single worst performance he's seen in the Premier League for a long time. I know you were apoplectic in terms of that performance against Spurs at home, but
mm,
what Villa are going to turn up, huge game, I think it's today. Forest, I think second leg of you today, critical in terms of what Villa could be turning up, especially if they've got a Europa League and what have you. Palace, obviously, they could get to the Conference League final. So there's going to be a lot of,
mm,
let's say, critical fixtures that don't involve Arsenal or Man City right now, which could still have some impact on the season. So yeah, listen, I think it was a huge goal, Ayub. I think it keeps him in it. It was a funny summary from Jamie Carragher after the game saying that Man City will be disappointed and Arsenal will be disappointed after that game,
mm,
funnily enough, because of how that game has transpired. And I understand what he was getting at. Absolutely. If it's 3-2, Ayub, I mean, City have got no momentum. It's
mm,
it's a real negative feeling. You're winning 1-0 to lose. City don't lose many games
mm,
anyway. I'm sure the record of losing games when you've been winning is even less in terms of,
mm,
in terms of under Pep Guardiola, as to how rarely that would have happened. So listen, I think it keeps them interested. Arsenal have it in their hands exclusively. I still think it's a couple of tricky away games when you're still going for your first Premier League title. You've been 22 years. Again, it's if you blow teams away, fine. You've got a bit of breathing space. But if you're winning 1-0, it's 82 minutes, 83 minutes. What kind of Arsenal play is it? Arteta making substitutions where he's bringing on defenders for strikers and all the rest of it. That's ultimately what's going to be the game right now. But look, 3 games to go for Arsenal. It's in their hands. This is what you hope for. They've got players returning back from injury. They've got players in real good form. If Arsenal play like they have been recently, especially with this like subtle move for Rice in terms of dropping deep as a insurance blanket, let's say. I don't know if you remember your many podcasts got 2, 3 months ago when also perhaps even flying higher than they are right now. I did say to you, if they keep Raya, Gabriel, Saliba, and Rice fit, that defense in and of itself should be enough to carry them to many wins. I think that's what now, 17 clean sheets or something like that in the league. He's won the Golden Glove again in the Premier League, Ayub, in terms of the most clean sheets, David Raya. And that's always going to give you a base to win games, Ayub. So incredible from Arsenal right now. Obviously, clubs feeling euphoric, but they've got to seize the moment. I agree with you. I think if they win on Sunday, I just think with then games happening every weekend, so there's no more midweek games. They've got to navigate this one, which will be tense. West Ham, to your point, that you're fighting for their lives. Spurs will fancy themselves against Leeds, especially coming off the back of a couple of wins. Leeds are pretty much safe. You wonder what kind of Leeds might turn up against Spurs. But West Ham are absolutely fighting for their lives, so they're not going to quit. So Arsenal have to face that. If they win that game, or you on Sunday, though, a week to prepare for every game there afterwards. Squads in good health, good nick. They've started to play a little bit more front foot football, which I believe teams like Burnley should not be able to live with, respectfully. And then you obviously go into that final game of the season. If City have won all their games, still knowing that a win delivers that title. Now, I think what City have to do, they've got to keep Arsenal honest. And they've got to make sure that Arsenal go to that last game feeling that they've got to win against Palace. And it's a game of football, Ayub, and you're going for your first title, and you're not in front of your home fans, and it's Selhurst Park. It's a tight ground, and you know what it's like. It's going to be I guess, a warm afternoon in May. Grass will be a little dry. Funny things can happen when you're going for that first title. So, yeah, listen, I don't think it's done and dusted by any stretch. But if Arsenal beat West Ham on Sunday, which I think will be a really difficult game, I think they'll feel like we're nearly there. We're absolutely nearly there.
Well, that's the only game that matters for me at this moment in time. So I hope Arsenal continue this rich vein of form, good form, and do a number on West Ham, and I'll be the happiest guy in Blackburn.
Just very quickly, I know we've switched topics a little bit. I just want to talk a little bit, or just get your opinion on the second game, Wednesday night, PSG against Bayern. PSG obviously punching their ticket to the final in Budapest. I know you've got a bit of a soft spot for PSG. I think you do like them. Obviously, you've watched them a few times. This is now, in a sense, the project coming to fruition, the realization, in a sense, of what the Qataris did when they bought that football club. You saw the owner kind of speaking about Luis Enrique in the most glowing terms when he was speaking to CBS yesterday. I was asking my brothers yesterday on the group that if he wins the Champions League, is he the greatest manager of his era? There is a discussion there to be had. If he wins back-to-back Champions Leagues, again, a discussion, which is one we can have if and when they do win a second Champions League title. Hopefully not. But in terms of just the game itself, Ayub, do you think the best team won over 2 legs? And what did he make of some of the slightly more controversial incidents, namely the handball situation that you saw in the first half, and then crucially that handball situation where Mendes seemed to avoid a second booking because the Bayern Munich player apparently handled the ball in the first instance. What did you see about those 2 incidents itself, but just overarching, did the best team win?
The best team, uh, yes, I think the best team did win. I mean, and I took my time because I don't want to do a disservice to Bayern Munich because I think they're a mighty fine team. But I think in terms of pure aesthetics, in terms of the purest form of football, it is PSG. I think they play the game that if you could imagine a dreamer dreaming about how to play football, this would be exactly the way that football should be played. So I think the best team did win. And just talking about Enrique, I think what they've always had. I mean, they've been a team that is has been blessed with world-class stars. Uh, but there was always that sort of issue because it was when Mbappe, Neymar, I mean Messi, latterly, I mean they had Ibrahimovic who was playing, so they've always had very very big stars. But it almost became they were the focal point, they were the
Yeah.
focus. Uh, and I think the best thing that's happened is that I mean, I don't know whether it's by intent, by design, how it's happened, but sort of obviously Mbappe wanted to go. It's not a case of
Mm.
they've got rid of these players, but I think this is now. It looks like a team. It
Yeah.
looks like everybody sort of going in the same direction. Everybody's sort of working hard, and it probably was the best thing that happened that Mbappe went, that Neymar went, Messi. I think Messi was there. Just I've still sort of not sure exactly what the reasons why they brought him. I think commercially, maybe perhaps it was a great bit of business, but I think in terms of play, I think he was well past his sell by it. But this side under Luis Enrique, and I think he's done a wonderful, and that's
Yeah.
just amazing what he's done. Talking about the game, unfortunately, I was fitting in and out of the game, so I'm not sort of well versed in these in the two sort of incidents that you're talking about. So maybe you can sort of pick
Yeah.
up and give me your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. In the first, I mean, I'll just quickly talk about the two incidents, and maybe in chronological order. I think that the handball against Nuno Mendes was first. I want to say the incidents happened just inside the PSG half. The Bayern players broke forward. It's hit his what appears to be his midriff, the Bayern player, as he's gaining control of the ball, and then Nuno Mendes inexplicably has his arm outstretched and stops what is a relatively promising counter track. Now he's been booked before, and you know how these handballs are treated, especially in Champions League, in terms of being subject to yellow cards. The referee immediately gave a thumbs up to the fourth official and blew the whistle for a free kick the other way for PSG against the Bayern Munich player, suggesting as though the Bayern Munich player had handled it in the first place, i.e., that was the first offence compared to then Nuno Mendes handling it. Secondly, I can't see it. It's not a handball. It's absolutely inconclusive. That's the first thing. But it hits his chest, the Bayern Munich player. There's no clear evidence that it hits his hand. And I do agree with Vincent Company to some extent. Honestly, I do that the referees looked at that and thought, this is going to have to be a first half red card in a second leg of a Champions League
Mm.
semi final against the champions. And I do think it's just human nature that it's going to weigh heavy on you with respect. So I think he's looked at that and he's had to give it the other way. Obviously, he's got his fourth official speaking in his ear because he gave him a thumbs up very quickly. But it's hit the Bayern Munich player's chest or stomach. It's unclear if it's hit his hand at all. It's absolutely not clear. So that really, I mean, if that goes the other way, Bayern Munich are playing in the
Mm.
Champions League final. There's
Yeah,
absolutely no doubt in my mind that if that decision goes the way it should have, Bayern Munich will be playing Arsenal in Budapest. And that is sport at the highest level. Now, the other one, there was a lot of noise on my group with my fellow brothers, who two of which thought it was a clear penalty. I was absolutely against it. The ball's been lashed by Vitinha against his own player's hand, which hand was outstretched, but Vitinha's absolutely lashed it against him. The ball's probably going to land on the halfway line at Europe, if not for the intervention of the PSG player's hand. I know the arm's outstretched. There's a little known rule that says that if it's your own player that kicks the ball against your arm, albeit even if it's outstretched, it cannot be a penalty. So the laws are on the side of no penalty. And ultimately, you're in the spirit of the game. You know what I'm like.
yeah.
Do you really want a penalty happening where if it wasn't for his hand, that ball was probably going to bounce on the halfway line? I mean, you want to give penalties for that? I mean, the argument was, well, you saw the one given last week. No two incidents are the same. The penalty given against Alfonso Davies, you and me both, you and I both agreed it was an absolute joke. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I was beyond livid at that penalty being given where it hits his midriff and then hits his arm, which is still
yeah.
relatively tucked in, relatively speaking.
Mm.
The reason why that was given, although I think it was an absolute joke, is because still it was a Bayern Munich player, sorry, a PSG player, crossing the ball into a relatively attacking position. I mean, I don't think they're ever going to score from that. You know, I don't like penalties like that. But that's the difference. Whereas here, I mean, it's not an attacking situation for Bayern Munich in any way, shape, or form. But So on the one hand, I don't think Bayern should have had a penalty, but I do believe they should have been playing against 10 men. And I do think if they were playing against 10 men in Europe, that they would be sitting here as Champions League finalists with a chance to win Champions League for Vincent Company, Harry Kane, and the rest, and go up against Arsenal. But yeah, listen, overall, Ayub, it was an incredible game. PSG worthy finalists. They are a wonderful footballing outfit. You're right. I mean, they play football the way it should be played. I think they've got some of the very best players at the highest level. If you told me right now who's give me the top 10 of footballers, you're probably getting to at least maybe three, maybe four footballers just from PSG alone. And you're right, Luis Enrique has reshaped that team, got away from, let's say, kind of they've still got superstars, but they've got superstars who became superstars at PSG. That's the
Yeah.
difference. Previously, you've got obviously Zlatan, who'd been incredible everywhere, but your Sergio Ramos came for a couple of years. Messi, Neymar. Yes, Neymar still did well at PSG, but he made his name at Barcelona. Messi obviously will forever be synonymous with Barcelona and what have you. Mbappe, again, yes, he had his best time at PSG, but he was incredible at Monaco in that infancy of his career. But you're right. You look at what's happening at Real, more stories coming out today, petitions being signed to get Mbappe out of the club, fights between Tchouaméni and Valverde. And you think on the same day, PSG are punching their ticket back-to-back Champions League finals will be favourites against Arsenal.
Mm.
This manager has done absolute wonders. He's an incredible football manager. Had a great playing career, had a great managerial career. Has won Champions Leagues with two clubs. Might go back to back. We know the personal tragedy that he's gone up against by losing his daughter to cancer as well. It was a very emotional thing to watch last year. You saw it. You in the
Yeah.
final. What the PSG fans unfurled, which was probably one of the lasting memories of that tifo of his daughter wearing the PSG outfit, planting that flag on the pitch. Incredible scene. So he's had difficulties in his personal life, but he carries himself well, which is what I really like. He's very respectful, very good in his interviews. He would be a huge addition to the Premier League should he want to come. He can have his pick of football clubs. If Luis Enrique is on the market, you move heaven and earth to fire whoever you need to fire to
Mm.
get Luis Enrique on board, and that includes Daniel Farke as well. So yeah, listen, I think that's Champions League. I'm sure we'll get a chance to speak about it, Ayub. But just before we, I guess, wrap up from a Premier League title perspective, Ayub, do you think this weekend, just very quickly, ultimately will define, in a sense, where this Premier League title is going?
Yeah, I think it will define both what's happening at the top and at the bottom as well. So it's an extremely important weekend. And I can't wait. I mean, I'm still nervous. I mean, it's this is what happens as a Leeds fan, but I think it's been incredible. But yes, whatever happens this weekend, I think there'll be a fair degree of confidence in terms of identifying where the league title is going to go, and perhaps which team will be going out of the league.
Yeah, and I think you look at it from a Spurs perspective, just very quickly, Ayub. If West Ham lose on Sunday, Spurs again at the absolute brink. Villa selection has given them. I mean, they've still got to win the game. Let's be very clear, but
Mm.
that's given them a big boost. It's no coincidence that they obviously turned out Aston Villa over comfortably. The fact that Aston Villa were playing their second-rate 11, let's say, for the most part, irrespective of how many internationals and how many players they were
Mm.
playing of certain ilk. But now Spurs have a home game against the team that, if West Ham have lost, will feel as though, well, that's us safe.
Mm.
And ultimately might just turn up and think, let's just have a party. So, I mean, Spurs will be going into that game
Yeah.
with a huge amount of confidence, knowing for them as well, if they win that game of football, they should be home and hosed for Premier League survival. So lots to play for, still lots at stake. Huge game. I did feel like if Arsenal beat Atletico Madrid on Tuesday night, I thought just the sheer momentum and weight of that goal being achieved, of getting there, punching their ticket to the Champions League final, would hold them in very good stead for Sunday at West Ham. I just think you've punched your ticket to the Champions League final. They've
Mm.
not done it in 20 odd years. West Ham is one game that I think they will see as win this, we win the title.
Yeah. And I hope that is the case come I think 4 o'clock or whatever the time is when they finish the game. So right. As always, it's an absolute pleasure. And you're rightly cock a hoop, and so you should be. Happy days as a gooner, and I hope there's more happier days this weekend when you clinch the league, which it will be. Right, as always, this is an extra episode that we've slipped in on behalf of Brother Always, and rightly so. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he's had quite a turbulent few years as a gooner. So we should give him this opportunity. So until the next time, it'll probably be next Monday. I hope I've got a smile on my face because that will mean that we're safe and we'll have another season in the Premier League. So until then, take care, take it easy. See you soon.